You know, I understood that this is what my faith was teaching me and what I was supposed to believe. But what did it say about my own life? I was struggling in my late teens and early 20s as an individual who's gay and really didn't want to be gay. What my faith was telling me was that I deserved to be gay and that I deserved to suffer and feel pain and feel sorrow and everything else, feel discrimination, everything else that I was dealing with because I was gay. I deserved it, and I didn't even know why I deserved it. I was just being told I deserved it. It's a pretty miserable way to have to live. I have committed sins simply by being born. I have committed sins, and I don't even know what those sins are. That was a traditionalism that I couldn't live with, and that, of course, many people in other faiths that are dealing with traditional concepts of faith are not able to deal with. Many of us in Unitarian Universalism have come to our faith from other religions. We have left those other religions because the traditionalism embodied in them didn't speak to us. It didn't give us enough freedom to fully be who we need to be in the world. The story of Ganesh, of Parvati and Shiva, his parents, it is a very traditional story on one level, but it's also a radical story on another level. Traditional in terms of, look at what Shiva did. He came back from these eons of being away, and his wife had dared to do the one thing that requires a man. She had dared to do the one thing that requires a man without him. She procreated without a man. His act of killing that son is very symbolic. It was patriarchy's revenge, if you will, for engaging in one of the most sacred acts that one can engage in without the other partner. Now, the fact that Parvati did that to begin with is a statement of radical feminism. Here you have this mother goddess who was looking at her situation of being abandoned and saying, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to empower myself to the maximum extent that I can. I am going to pick up the clay. I'm going to pick up the dirt and create life. I don't need a man to help make me whole and make me complete. It's a very radical statement, especially considering the fact that this Hindu story is thousands of years old. It is not rooted in any modern-day sense of feminism, but thousands of years ago in a society that is so fundamentally patriarchal. How that story is reconciled is eventually traditionalism and non-traditionalism coming together and compromising. The torso, which Parvati created without her husband, fused with the head that her husband provided. This Ganesh embodied is an embodiment of these two, of the struggle between Shiva and Parvati being reconciled, feminism and masculinity being reconciled, half from the father, half from the mother. The implications for this are that we can turn to our own faith and find examples of how to go back and reclaim aspects of it in ways that are non-traditional. This very ancient story provides an example of how we can take an approach that is far more empowering towards women. For me, in my life, how I've come to understand karma and dharma, I have reinterpreted those concepts as well. Karma can be understood simply as we create our own reality. Through the good things we do, through the bad things we do, things that are harmful that we may do, we create our character. The good acts we undertake, they build character. The harmful things we do to other people ultimately harm us because they shape our character and they hurt those that are around us. Others respond to that negativity that we're putting out in the world. We create our own reality. That is an understanding of karma that is non-traditional. Dharma as well can be re-understood and is often re-understood in the American context simply as meaning living well, living our life as religiously sound as we can. That doesn't mean having to stay bound to strictures of social limitation or vocational limitation, but more so looking towards our purpose in life. Who are we called to be? This is very much a Unitarian Universalist question. Who are we called to be, and how can we live that call well? That, in a reinterpreted sense, is dharma, living well, learning how to live well. We in Unitarian Universalism do this all the time. We look to these religions of the East, Buddhism and Hinduism, and we take some of these concepts and we reinterpret them in ways that are very empowering, very meaningful to us in the context in we're living here in the States and in our own very much empowered and free spiritual paths. But one of the things that's been interesting as I've become a Unitarian Universalist is that I've observed how we do this work of claiming in a non-traditional way concepts that are meaningful to us. We do it in terms of the Eastern religions, but we're very reactive to it when it comes to Christianity, the faith that the majority of Unitarian Unitarian Universalists are actually grounded in. When it comes to Christianity, reclaiming and redefining concepts such as grace or salvation or sin or God wind up being far more difficult to do than looking towards Eastern religions and saying, I can understand karma or dharma or nirvana in ways that make sense to me. Why is that? Why is that? One of the reasons that's true is that many of us have been deeply hurt, deeply scarred by Christianity. And that is a reality that we have to honor and that we have to respect. In any of our congregations or fellowships, there are those who have been deeply hurt by Christianity. But it is possible to look towards the religion of our origins, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, for me, Hinduism, or for you, perhaps something else, and look towards those concepts that we can still claim in the here and now in ways that are non-traditional, in ways that affirm our Unitarian Universalist path. That, in a way, is the true act of rebellion, not necessarily discarding our religious path, but reclaiming our religious path in ways that are liberal and free and open. That can be, in fact, the true act of rebellion. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the greatest Hindu leaders of all time, actually told one of his disciples, a student of his came who was British. This woman who was British came to him and said, Mahatma, I want to become Hindu. Will you tell me how I can convert to Hinduism? And he said to her, that's not your path. You should not convert to Hinduism. You grew up Christian. You need to go deeper into your own sense of Christianity. The message that you're looking for in Hinduism also exists in Christianity. You haven't found it yet, but it's there. You need to look for it. And that was one of his common messages throughout his life. He discouraged conversion. He actually said, go deeper into your own roots, because if you go deep enough with openness and freedom, you'll find a sense of inspiration, a sense of hope, a sense of non-traditional openness if you go deep enough. We are, as Unitarian Universalists, we are religious explorers. That is part of the openness and freedom that our faith provides. It gives us the freedom to look to all these other religious options, to these stories from many different faiths, and approach them with a new perspective, a new lens that can inform our own journey. In unfettering ourselves in this way, with this openness and with this freedom, we do empower ourselves on our own spiritual quest. We give ourselves the freedom to explore. Our faith represents the freedom to explore, the freedom to learn and grow. These are freedoms that are the very foundation of our society, of American society. And we hear that cry for freedom as part of our national message, wanting to let it ring from sea to shining sea. And we can recognize in that call, that national call, that we, as a religious faith, we are religious emissaries of that call for freedom. It is our faith that is one of the shining examples of religious freedom, of religious openness. And that freedom allows us to change lives, to build lives, to embolden lives, and ultimately to save lives. In changing lives, we save lives. That is our vision. That is our call. May we each move forward in finding our own ways to bring that commitment alive.